Hey y'all, it's Amanda and this is my Texas Zone 8 garden, and today we're going to do a really thorough grow room tour. I'm going to show you everything about starting my seedlings. Okay, so several of you messaged me. I took Halloween and November 1st off, so Thursday and Friday off of last week. I love Halloween. It's my mom's birthday, which is why Halloween is huge. It's always been a big deal in our household. And I really just wanted to enjoy the day, handing out candy. I handed out about 4,000 pieces of candy. Now, I don't give them out one by one. I'm a handful kind of girl. And we always have a ton of people over at our house, friends and family. Kids are all running around trick-or-treating, and we literally have thousands of people come through our neighborhood for it. It's wonderful. I love it every year. I set up a giant candy chute or candy slide utilizing an old gutter, and it's propped up on a ladder, and we send candy down and it shoots to the bottom. We wrap it with lights and cobwebs. The kids love it. The adults love it. It's always a hit every year. I'll put up a picture so y'all can see. And then November 1st is actually my wedding anniversary. So I celebrated 21 years with my husband, which was really fun. We are very low-key people. So we did not do a big, huge celebration, but we did spend the day together. We got the minivan washed. We took our dog to the vet for her arthritis shots. He got a haircut. We picked up prescriptions. We worked on some fundraiser stuff for my daughter's high school band. That's pretty much the extent of our day, but we were there together all day long, so that was really wonderful. Okay, and please excuse my voice. It's a little hoarse. I think that when my daughter was competing this weekend at her UIL area marching band competition, and I am very loud. I'm very, very loud, enthusiastic band mom, and so I think I screamed too loud. And I've kind of damaged my voice. So bear with me as we go through this grow room tour. So the idea for this video was not mine. Several of you all reached out and asked for this, and I think it is a great idea. I have what I call the grow room, and it's where I do a lot of recording for you all. I store a lot of my gardening supplies. I start all my seedlings in here. This is where I do a whole lot of work. So I really just wanted to go into detail on basically the space, what I have, some products I like, what things have worked, what things have not worked, just along those lines, so that if you are planning on starting up a grow room or seed starting space, you can pull ideas and thoughts from my process and hopefully create something that's perfect for you. Okay, so this room is actually our dining room. We have lived in this house, I guess, about 7 years, and I have had dining rooms in almost every home that we've lived in. We've lived in a lot of homes. We've bought and sold a lot to basically bankroll our money and reduce our mortgage over the years. And every dining room we have barely used. We typically use it for Thanksgiving and Christmas. That's it. And this current house we're in is probably one of the smaller houses we've ever lived in. And it made no sense to have this dining room space, which isn't huge. I mean, I guess it's 12 by 10. It made no sense to have this huge space where it wasn't used almost every day of the year. And so I decided, when I really got into gardening, I decided to transform this space into just basically a workspace for myself, a grow room for myself, where I could really just, organize and manage everything that I was doing for my garden in one localized space. Now, I definitely want to preface this: when I show you all the stuff in this room, please know that I did not go out and buy all of this at once. This is over 7 years in this location, 7 years of collecting shelves and lights and furniture and different elements to get to this point in this grow room. I am in no way advocating that you go spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars right off the bat. You can do just like me, start small and build up over time. That's what's worked best for my family and my budget. And so I think that a lot of times when you see some stuff that YouTube gardeners are doing and stuff, it's really hard to be like, oh, I really, really want that. and the realization of how much money has been spent towards that. So that's why I think it's really important that my money has been spent over 7 years. So I definitely do not have a budget where I can just go out and like buy anything and everything I want. Oh, rain just started outside. Yay. I definitely don't have a budget where I can just go buy anything and everything I want. Secondly, I did not clean up for you all. This is the reality of my grow room. I did not go around and vacuum and clean, put everything away, because that's not how my grow room functions. I am gardening almost every day because obviously it's part of my job. And I'm constantly in this room, and this room is used. It is used all the time. It's used for storage. It's used for seed starting. It's just used for all different kinds of stuff. So I left everything how it is. So it is in no way going to be this beautifully, perfectly organized space. It's going to be my reality. Okay, my seed starting at this particular house started with this shelf. It's just a Walmart shelf, black metal shelf. And this is where I started all my seed growing. And I didn't have a ton of seeds at the time. I literally utilized like 1 or 2 shelves, and then all the other shelves were utilized for storage. This is the first thing that I had, and I lived with this for over 1.5 years. This worked great for what I needed. So one of the things you need to consider when starting your own grow room space, you do not have to have a giant room to start off with. This was still my dining room at the beginning with a shelf for seed starting in it. So you do not have to take over a giant space. You can utilize a closet, your garage, a corner of your kitchen, laundry room. There's so many spaces where you can just stick a small shelf to do your seed starting. You know, I am very outward about how my seed starting, I'm typically not starting a lot of seeds for my own garden. I work with the really small seed trays because I don't need 72 of much of anything. Now, recently I've been growing a whole lot more seeds, but if you notice, they're not for me. They're for my friend Kristen. I grow like a dozen for myself and grow 72 for her. So most of us smaller home gardeners, we don't need a massive, massive space. You can really start with something as simple as just some metal shelves. You don't have to go through Walmart or Amazon. Get on Facebook Marketplace. You can probably find something for 10 or 15 bucks and start with that. And then from this, I built into more space. Okay, from that space, from this shelf, I ended up adding these 2 cabinets on either side. This was my probably one of the biggest splurges I made for the garden or for the grow room. But I actually ended up picking these particular pieces. They're from IKEA because I really like the look, and I like the idea of storing all of these vases and things that I've collected over the years. And this is just a really nice, pretty way to do it. I wanted to be able to have some closed storage as well. I thought that was really important. I did not want to create a built-in because truthfully, up until recently, we moved quite a bit. So I wanted to be able to take my furniture with me. We have since decided that we're going to stay here for quite a while because it just works for our kids, it works for our family, it works for us financially. So this is where we're going to be. But I've got really great storage on the bottom. That's closed storage. And I've reorganized and organized it many times, utilizing mainly containers from the Dollar Tree. Nothing, fancy or special, because obviously it's a grow room space. It's going to get dirty. And right now, running my hand, it's covered in soil and dust because that's the nature of this space. Now, I liked these 2 pieces because they maintained a little bit of that dining room aesthetic. When I bought these over 5 years ago, I still had in mind that I would utilize this space for dining, that I would try to share the space between dining and growing. That is no longer. I am beyond that point. So if I had to go back and redo these, I probably would have spent something a little bit less expensive, and I would have done more open storage instead of closed storage because I wouldn't necessarily care about the aesthetic at this point. I would care about the convenience and functionality of it, which I actually think is something really important when you're looking at a grow room or a seed starting space. Is aesthetic important to you? Does it have to be really pretty, or does it have to be functional? I have grown a lot over the years. I used to have everything needed to be aesthetic, and as I've gotten older and busier, functionality is by far the most important thing for me. I don't bring anything in my house unless it has some kind of functionality or story behind it. Stories are really important to me as well. So a lot of the things you'll see in here are vintage items that I've collected over the years, which I love, and they have this beautiful story, but they also have functionality because I utilize them for my home decor or floral arrangements or storage or organization, all kinds of stuff like that. So definitely something to consider. This has grown over time, and there's definitely some things, like I said, now all these years later, I wish that I had invested in less expensive shelves that were easier for me to get in and out of, and I could store more items. Am I going to change out these 2 shelves? Absolutely not. I will keep these forever, and that's fine. They still work. They still have good function. They don't have great function, but they are very pretty to look at, which is also a bonus. Okay, so I probably should have started with the table. So obviously this table was the first thing in my grow room. This table is an antique farm table that belonged to my grandmother. It has been at multiple houses over the years. My grandmother was very much an artist, and I think that she would really love that I'm utilizing this every day. So she constantly had sewing projects and stuff like that on it when it was in her home. And we had many of Thanksgiving and Christmas dinners on this over the years. My mom grew up with this. Well, I think my grandmother bought this in my mother's later adult years. But I have this particular farm table, and it is antique. It is very old. It has square head nails in it, and it really is holding up. Every few months I condition it just to keep it clean and sealed and happy. And I do use a soil mat when I'm working with soil, or if I'm working with some kind of product that might mess up the table, I do use a mat to protect it. Now, to help me out with working, I am a very tall person. I'm 5'10", and if I had a regular table, it would have been dropped down about 6 inches. I do have this on risers. They're the risers that you would typically get to put under your bed for more storage. So I have this raised up on risers so that I don't have to bend over so far when I'm working on stuff. That was probably one of the best investments I could have had by having the risers. Made such a difference and just made it easier for me to move around and work. I was not looking to sit at my table because I am a very all over the place moving person, and just sitting was not really going to work for me. So having it at this upper height has worked great. Now, a few things about my lighting. I have just an overhead ceiling fan. I do live in Texas, and I get hot, and I am in, my mid 40s, and I need a fan. So I have a ceiling fan in here with a light. This light has never been enough. And so I have additional lights that are for mainly for when I'm recording video, but also when I'm in here, it really helps to see everything better by having these standing lights. I've been through a lot of varieties of these standing lights over time. This particular model is the one that has lasted the longest. Quite frequently, I bump them and I knock them over and I break them. I did the whole ring light for a while, but it really helped to have a light source from both sides when I'm working. That's helped immensely. All right, so let's talk about creative space. I'll get down here. So I needed additional growing room, and that was before I invested in some shelves that you see over there. And I didn't want to necessarily give up more wall space, more storage space. So I ended up hanging some of my grow lights underneath my table. So I just have a couple of screw-eye hooks underneath here, hung up my grow lights, and this has really worked for larger plants. My plants as they grow on beyond seedlings, which has been great. This trunk over here is an old trunk that belonged to my father-in-law who's passed away, and I like that I get to see it every day. And I've got, like right now, I've got all of my cuttings, all my propagation that I've been working on, which are looking really, really good. And I've raised it up closer to the light, which is better for the plant so it doesn't reach per se. But I do a lot of larger plants under here. If I find something on sale in November, but I can't plant it till March. If some of these plants really start to grow quickly and I have to pot them up into larger containers, that works really well. Last year I dug up all of my pepper plants and brought them inside and stored them underneath this table for the winter, which was really great as well. So being creative about your spaces is good. I mean, you can keep your beautiful, gorgeous dining room and just go ahead and toss in a couple of lights underneath the dining table, pull your chairs back, store your seedlings under there. And then when the time comes that you need to utilize your dining room, you can very easily move those seedlings to another room while you host your dining room, host in your dining room. So that was a really fun way to create a lot of space for grow lights. Okay, so these shelves I created maybe 2-3 years ago. These are 2x6s and 2x10s that I stained, and I put in metal brackets and created this kind of backdrop with the idea that this backdrop would be the backdrop for when I'm recording my videos. And it worked out really well. I did end up putting some LED strip lights underneath it. Recently, I had one down here, the strip light that's down here went out. Like half of it went out. So I do need to replace that. I think it only lasted 2 years. Important to know. The one up here is still going great, which makes me wonder if I did something to this, if I hit it, done something wrong, which definitely could have happened. And that's why it's not working. These strip lights, while I love them, I don't think they're the absolute best. I don't think they put out the best amount of light for growing seedlings. However, they do have a really good function. A lot of times I will put seedlings that I don't want them to slow down on their growth. I'll put them under these strip lights on here, which works good because it seems like they're not getting as many lumens and therefore they're not growing as quickly. So that works really, really well for me too. I also feel like these strip lights are really good for getting the original seeds to germinate, and then I move them to other locations. Because I feel like these strip lights under here are a little bit dim, once the seed germinates, it tries to reach very quickly for it and will get leggy. So quite frequently, if I'm starting seeds in here, I will put something underneath them to raise this closer to the light so that that doesn't happen. So while I do like these strip lights, and I will replace with some additional strip lights, I wouldn't highly recommend them. They do their function, but they're not the best. I would rate them as good, just fine, but not the absolute best. So I also really like this space for storing. I do enjoy some aesthetic stuff. I like to be able to see all my gardening books up here so I can pull as needed, and also so that I glance at them on almost a daily basis, so I never know when I'm like, oh, I'm going to be inspired by something that I see or that pokes up, so that I can pull the book and go from there. Also, it's just stored pots, any kind of things that I might need, all my pens, pencils, my sticky traps. I mean, just lots of fun stuff stored in here. I always like to do quirky things for myself. And this is some pottery that my cousin created. I mean, I do really like just having this space. I will say that I reorganize this space like once a year, which I think is very helpful, and it helps me learn more about my needs in the space. And like I said, in the beginning, when I was younger, aesthetic, how something looked was very important to me. That's less important to me now. Functionality is more important to me. But I do like seeing some of these fun, like silly things, gardening because murder is wrong. Once upon a time, there was a girl who really loved dogs and gardening. It was me, the end. Like, I love some stuff like that. I think it's really fun to collect and make me smile throughout the time. This top shelf you guys don't really see as much. I store seeds up here. I'm going to be moving these seeds to a bigger shelf on the side. I store pots. I store electronic stuff that I'm using. And what I really want to move this shelf up to is I want to put my larger scale vases and things like that that I don't utilize as often. I would like to put them up here because this stuff I actually utilize quite frequently. So I'm constantly reaching up to take it down, and I don't want to have to do that. I want to put it on some lower shelves. But I think putting just some beautiful things, vases and artwork and stuff up there, just so I can enjoy it and then pull as needed, I think would work better than the things that I use more often. Things I wish I had done. I wish I had made these longer, closer to 8 feet. These are 6 feet. I'm not going to go back and change it. I mean, it doesn't matter enough for me. So really think about that if you're going to install shelves like this in your space, to make that adjustment and make sure that it really fills the space nicely. And I think 8 feet would have worked a lot better. And I do wish I had done an additional shelf down low, which I can still do. I actually have more of these brackets, these metal brackets that I'm using. I could install a lower shelf, which I think would be helpful. I would like to store stuff like my quicker seed starting stuff, fertilizer, seed starting mix. What was I going to look at? A lot of my seed starting trays, I would like to store them right here because when I'm working right here at the table, I just want to be able to grab them quickly instead of they're all over here. And I would just be able to access them quicker. So I would love to install another shelf all along there to do that, organize all of it. And I think that that would work really nicely. Okay, and then the latest space, or the latest addition, is this larger metal shelf, which I got from Home Depot. And it's got all my favorite Go lights on here. And this is really just because I need expanded space. The expanded space isn't necessarily for germinating seedlings, it's for potting up seedlings. So once my seedlings have sprouted, I've got these, they're in these cute little seed cells, but I need to move them up to a larger container, a 3x3 or 4x4. In this space, it works so much better. The trays that I use, the standard 10 by 20 trays, you can put in long ways like this, but they also fit really great like this all the way to the back. So I can get 3 trays in here, sometimes 4. So that works really, really well for me. And this is really good because I've been growing so many annuals for my garden. Pansies, petunias, and that has worked. Usually when I'm growing those, I'm growing like 3 or 4 flats. So like 3 or 4 of these containers. And that takes a lot of room on those other shelves or underneath the table. And so this really allows me to have all of those annuals, which is a big cost saver for me in the end, actually. By growing all my own annuals brings me a lot of joy too. So that works really good. It has good storage up above. This storage up above is where I'm actually wanting to move a bunch of my seeds and stuff like that, and then shift some of this over. But this has worked out really, really great. The metal shelves I like because they're open metal shelves. So it allows really great airflow and such, which I think is really good. This was an excellent addition. Now, let me show you the problem that it's caused. Okay, so this is a dining room space. It is a big open space right here, and where you guys are right now, where you're standing, is my living room, where I spend all my time with my family. And these lights are really bright, and my seed lights stay on 16 hours a day. Now, obviously I'm not growing anything on this shelf right now, so they're turned off. Anytime I'm not growing something, I turn them all off. But like right now, I still got, under here, she's still light. What happens is this light floods the living room, and my family is really big into movie nights together. We really enjoy it, and this really kills the ambiance of a movie night. So one of the things I'm looking into is installing some kind of bar or hanger here where I can have some curtains installed. So when the time comes and we're hanging out in the living room, I can just pull the curtains closed and block the light into this space. The curtains would be open most of the time because I love to walk by this space all the time. To my left over here is my kitchen. Where you guys are is my living room, and to the right leads to all my kids' rooms and such. This is a major thoroughfare right in front of this space. And I like to have this space open because it reminds me, oh, I need to check on such and such seedling. Or it's a rough day and I walk by and I see some beautiful green, something that I grew, makes me smile, right? So it's really good to have the space open. So those curtains would be open most of the time, but I do want to be able to pull them whenever we're having a movie night. And when I figure out how I want to do that, I will let y'all know. If you have any thoughts on how to do that, let me know your thoughts. I had seen some cool bars where you just secure them up into the ceiling. The bar is attached to the ceiling, and then you can just run, because I have 2 awkward corners that don't line up. So it's not like I can put a tension rod or something, that won't work. And then I want it to be all the way to the ceiling, to the floor. Now, a lot of y'all had asked how I keep my puppy dogs out. I have just a really simple foldable fence guard here. I got it on Facebook Marketplace for $5. The last owners, their puppy dogs had chewed on it. So this has worked really, really great. It also keeps my robot vacuum cleaner for coming in this space. I don't want it to come in this space just because I've got obviously stuff everywhere. But that's how I keep my puppy dogs from getting out. It is not secure, it's just set on the ground. My dogs are pretty good with boundaries, and so they don't push past this. If you have a dog that is not good with boundaries and you want to block off a space, I would look for a structure that's more permanent and heavy weighted. This one's really light. It's easy to move anytime like I'm doing work and I need to come back and forth. It just folds up out of the way, which works really well. Now, I did touch on Facebook Marketplace a couple of times. If you're looking to do things on a budget, don't go buy all this new. Check it out on Facebook Marketplace and see what you can find. Most everything you can get a very deep discount on it compared if you were to buy it new. I didn't really care that this was chewed up a little bit. I just really needed it to block off the space. And I like that it was lower profile because my dogs are small, so it works really, really well for me. Okay, so that's my space. It's really important to know that this space has grown over the years. I also did not get it right every time. There have been pseudo things throughout the years that I've tried and didn't work out. And I'm very open about messing up. And so it's something to consider when you're working on your space. Don't force the space to work for you. Don't force the items to work because you spent the money on it. If it doesn't work, sell those items and go get what you need to make it work correctly. If you have to customize things to work for you, by all means do that. Like I said, I'm really big on functionality over aesthetic. That doesn't mean everything has to be ugly though, right? You can still do pretty things. Like if you don't like those metal shelves that we were just looking at, you can paint those a beautiful red or a beautiful blue or have fun with it. Customize it to your own personality and your own aesthetic. I just really suggest that you consider functionality before spending money on something very expensive. Like I said with those IKEA cabinets, they are beautiful and I love them. They are from a different time when I thought this space was going to be a dining room and a grow room. It is no longer that, it is only a grow room. And if I could go back, I wouldn't have purchased them. I would have gotten additional metal shelves for better functionality and better storage. Am I going to get rid of those other ones? No, because they still work. They still work good and they still work fine and they still fit my needs. Someday, maybe I'll sell those and replace them with some metal shelves. We'll have to see. A few other things to consider about a grow room space or a seed starting space. Things you are going to need. You're going to need electricity, all right, because we have to have grow lights for starting our stuff. So you are going to have access to electricity. A lot of closets don't have an electrical outlet in it, so you need to look and see if you can run an extension cord to another space to bring electricity into that space. It's very, very important. Air circulation. Air circulation is very important. Having the ceiling fan is great. Sometimes I set up oscillating fans as needed if I'm running into some mold or fungus growing on the top of my seedlings. I'll bring in some additional oscillating fans to move the air in the space. You don't want the air to be stagnant. That's when we start having issues with mold growth. So whether you're in a closet, laundry room, garage, dining room, corner of your kitchen, really consider air circulation. Is that closet door going to be closed at all times? If so, maybe you're going to need a small oscillating fan. They have those little clip-ons just to move the air in the space. The laundry room, how big is your laundry room? How often are you running your dryer, which really heats up the space? Which actually might be good for starting some seeds that need some better heat for starting. But you want to consider what's going to work best regarding that. Are you going to be able to just do your laundry in one day and it's not really going to affect your seedlings? Or are you like my younger sister, Elisa, who does laundry every day? She washes all the clothes from that day. She does it every day. And so if you're someone who's constantly going to be running your dryer, that might not necessarily be the best space for your seedlings. Same thing for the garage. Air circulation. A lot of people will put up like tarps to create a little walled off room for all their seedlings. You might need air circulation with the oscillating fan. You also might need a heater if it gets really, really cold. Same thing with those in the basement. If you have basements, I'm not familiar with basements. We don't have basements in my particular area. But you might need something to control the temperature of it getting too cold and too hot in the space. So that's something to consider as well. Electricity and air circulation. And then the last thing I think is really important to consider is waterproofing. So if you are going to be working in a space that has carpet, definitely put down a waterproof tarp underneath all your shelves or where you're working or your space or something. If you can, pull up your carpet, just leave it concrete, or put down some, I have that luxury vinyl flooring, which is really good for waterproofing. I have that throughout my house. But definitely consider waterproofing and what you might be doing in that space. If you have carpet, you don't want to spill and all of that sink into the carpet and mold and have all these issues. So definitely putting down some kind of waterproof liner would be extremely helpful in a space like that. So those are the things that I think are the most important: electricity access, air circulation, and waterproofing. Very, very important. Pretty much everything else I think you can control, even temperature, I think you can control. Like I said, also your space doesn't have to be giant. Start small, start simple. Start with a single shelf just tucked into the corner of your house, and then work up from there depending on what your needs are for your garden. Okay, I have updated my Amazon list with the different products I utilize. It's under seed starting and grow room and stuff like that. And you can see a lot of the products that I have utilized, and you have access to those if you're interested in starting to gather things for your grow room. I wanted to put out this video before Black Friday, in case any of y'all were looking for those, and also put off this video before the holidays in case you were going to ask for gifts from friends, so that you knew what to use and what to ask. And you can just take those Amazon links and send them. I definitely do get a little tiny itty bitty percentage, like a couple of cents, like a cent per dollar, 1 penny per dollar spent if you use my links. But I don't really care if you don't want to use my links. That's no problem. If you do, hey, that'd be great. That'd be wonderful. But I will have all that listed down below. I am in turn going to do an additional video where I'm going to get very detailed about all my seed starting supplies. I'm going to talk about the grow lights. I'm going to talk about all my seed starting trays. I'm going to talk about all the little elements that I use, why I use them, and where you can get those. And that'll be coming out in the next week or so. Typically, I do a lot of this stuff in January. But if you're like me, I'm already ready to go full steam in January. I don't want to have to do all my ordering and setting up all of my seed starting supplies. I don't want to have to do all that. I want to go. I want to start the seeds immediately. So this year I really kind of pushed everything backwards. I made it all come earlier so that you guys could be better prepared. So you didn't have to scrunch everything in, in January, right after we've all spent a lot of money on the holidays, that you really could evaluate and spread things out over the next 2 to 3 months, which works better for my budget, potentially works better for a lot of your budgets as well. So I will have a video coming up on the very specific seed starting supplies. I'm also going to have a video coming up on my Christmas wish list, my holiday wish list, and what I'm looking for my garden this holiday season. And I'll be sharing that with you all so that if you're interested in adding that to your wish list as well. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. We're really kind of seeing a little bit more interest about the grow room. There is one more thing I meant to show y'all. Okay, this is the wall opposite the table right here. So this is a table right here. And so typically I would be the camera. This is what the camera does. It faces this way. This wall that I would like to do in this incoming year is I would like to create an inspiration wall. I would like to basically put some corkboard on this wall. And I would love to start pinning up ideas and thoughts, inspiration for myself, for my garden, inspiration for my life, my kids' artworks and achievements. Like, I'd really like to fill this space with some fun stuff. And I think that would be great because over here on where I work at the table, I'm constantly looking at this blank wall. And I think having something on this blank wall would be really good. Originally, I was going to put mirrors so I could see what I look like. I don't really care what I look like anymore when I'm on video, so it's fine. And I think that this would be a really fun space. So this will be some future videos at the beginning of the year, really talking about my inspiration and thought process through creating this inspirational wall. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Really seeing more of the space that I'm constantly working in. I think it's important. I thought it was great. Several of y'all recommended doing this. I think it's a great idea. Y'all know how big I am about reality, showing y'all what is actually happening in my space. It's not all pretty. I'm a hot mess. I'm messy. And I'm all over the place. And I think it's important for you guys to see the space and what I'm working with, and so that hopefully it inspires you for your space. So I'm glad I did today's video, and I really appreciate the video suggestions. If you have any additional video suggestions, drop them down below. I'm very interested, and I typically write all of them down or add them onto my digital list on my phone. So I literally have a list of like hundreds of ideas for videos. So every time you guys write that stuff, I add it to my list. So drop me any ideas for videos that you would like to see that would be helpful for your gardening journey. All right, you all, as always, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Every time you like and comment, it helps grow the channel so much. And if you don't feel comfortable leaving a comment, just drop me an emoji below, letting me know that you made it to the end of the video and that you say hi. And be sure to check me out on my social media outlets, including Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. As always, she's a mad gardener or a decorator or anything else that she wants to be. Thanks, y'all.